Hi, everybody. My name is Matt. I get to serve as one of the pastors here. I'm so glad to see you all today. It's gross outside, and it's mostly warm in here. Also, to the Joy Box, our furnace went out in the... Like, I should throw money in. We'll spend it on a furnace. That's all I have to say about that. We are working our way through the book of Revelation. And we're doing... I feel very loud in the speakers. Can be a little bit less loud. Thanks, Nick. We are working through a book of Revelation, and we're calling this series Here, which for a lot of us feels like a weird name for a book off in the future. But our starting argument actually is that Revelation is about now. It is about how to follow Jesus here, today, and how to engage with the world here, today. It also is about the time, every time from now until the end of everything, because it includes all of it. And it really on a lot is in any book, period, you should probably know what kind of literature or what genre of literature it is if you're going to have any ability to read it. Because if you open Emily Dickinson and assume it is a physics textbook, you're in for a world of confusion. And if you open a physics textbook and think it's poetry, you're going to be really, really frustrated that nothing rhymes. Because I think all poetry ought to rhyme. And the same is true of open a letter written by someone. You should probably assume that person existed and that they were writing to a community that existed, and those places had specific things that they were known for. I say this semi-regularly, but one of my favorite ridiculous quotes is that 2,000 years from now, it will be impossible to know the difference between a butt dial and a booty call. And that is why the Bible is hard to understand today. And the same realities are happening when we open up our scriptures and look at context. And the book of Revelation is written in a genre, and that genre is called poetic apocalypse. Poetic apocalypse, oh, I did it again. I should warn you, there's a lot of reading today, so this could be a very unpleasant sermon. Poetic apocalypse uses images and metaphors and throwbacks to reveal what is happening behind the curtain now. We talked about in Revelation 4 and 5, they serve as the interpretive lens for the whole of the book of Revelation. In Revelation 5, we are told that we should remember who we are in light of who God is. And who God is the slain lamb, who is worthy to unroll the scrolls, to unseal the things, because he is the slain lamb. So we made this claim, and I will say it again and again. The claim of Revelation is to fight empire by not becoming the empire, becoming the lamb instead. Today we're in chapters 12. Things get a little crazy in chapters 12 through 14 because Revelation has been moving along with like symbols of seven as it moves through. There's 7 seals, and there's 7 trumpets, and all this stuff is happening in 7 to pull back some. And in 12, everything goes bonkers. Time gets squishy. Things start happening past, present, and future all at once. And I'm just going to start reading so we can hear it. It's weird, so just bear with me. We've already heard me try to say apocalypse, so we'll see how this goes. A great portent appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun and with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pangs and in agony of giving birth. Then another portent appeared in heaven, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his heads. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to earth. Then the dragon stood before the woman who was about to bear a child so that he might devour her child as soon as it was born. I know, this is really wild already, right? There's dragons eating babies. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But her child was snatched away and taken to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God, so that there she can be nourished for 1,260 days. Yeah. Just as an aside, because this will just come up in discussion. I know it. 1,260. Had to look it up. Did not know this in and of myself. If you're like, well, Matt's really smart. Hebrew numerology for a divinely restricted period of time, meaning God put Mary somewhere. I just pulled back a little bit of the curtain. God put this woman somewhere for the time that was needed to be placed somewhere. That is also weirdly called times a time, or a time times a time and a half. So that will come up later. Same thing. I'm not Hebrew. Here we are. That's how they do numbers. A war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but they were defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. The great dragon was thrown, the ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice. And the authority of his Messiah, for the accuser of our comrades has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. But they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the testimony, for they did not cling to life even in the face of death. Rejoice then, you heavens. But woe to the earth and the sun come down to you with great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. So when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. But the woman was given the 2 wings of the great eagle, so that she could fly from the serpent into the wilderness, to her place where she is nourished for time and time. There's that 1200 and to sweep her away with the flood, but the earth came to help the woman. It opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth. Then the dragon was angry with the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her children, those who keep the commandments of God, the testimony of Jesus. There's a lot going on in those 17 verses. I don't know if you paid attention, but that's Mary giving birth to Jesus. Also, a war in heaven that maybe took place before the creation of the world, and Jesus dying on the cross to defeat the dragon, all while the dragon is chasing after Mary on eagle's wings, and the earth is coming to for her protection to swallow up the things that the dragon is throwing at her. All of that is going on, but it's saying 2 things incredibly clearly. I know, like, clearly? Yeah. In Revelation, poetic apocalypse did at that time. Evil is present, and it wants to overcome the work of God in the world. And despite that, evil is constantly thwarted. Every single time. There's a war of the they lose. The tries to eat the baby, doesn't succeed. The woman is about to be knocked down to the ground. She grows wings. Then there's the earth, and it shoots a flood at her, and the earth swallows it. Everything does cannot stand against anything God does. And there's this powerful message here for a group of humans that are sitting in uncomfortable times, in scary moments, everything else that goes with that. But the story goes on. We're actually doing for 3 chapters today. I'm not going to read all 3. I'm unfortunately going to read 2.5, or 1.5. The rest of chapter 12 and all of 13, something crazy happens. A beast comes out of the sea. This beast incorporates all of the beasts that we are told about in Daniel. They're the great beasts of the earth. And then another beast of the land. And this beast is scarier and more ferocious than the beast of the sea. And then the dragon presents to the beast, and they're like, let's do this thing together. And they all start to do this crazy calling people to them. These are the empires of the world. This is what Paul talks about when Paul says in Ephesians 6:12, the rulers, the authorities, the cosmic powers of this present darkness, the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. We are given this image of 3 great divine monsters. Offset and show us the opportunity of an unholy trinity and a holy trinity. Unholy trinity is compelling, powerful, and and so people choose to follow the unholy trinity, and yet some stand up and follow the holy trinity. And so they're bringing us to this point where everyone is leaning in because those 3 monsters have their people, and this God over here has their people, and everything comes to a head. I'm going to read all of chapter 14. And here's why. Because every Sunday I read parts of it and then and that's what happened. And you're like, how'd we get here? Which is fair. I'm going to read 14, but I want to invite you to look for two things really carefully. Anytime for agriculture, okay? When you see agriculture, pay attention. Then I looked, and there was a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him were the 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, the sound of many waters, and like the sound of loud thunder, and the voice I heard was playing on their harps, and they sang a new song before the throne and before the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. It is these who have not defiled themselves with women for they are virgins. These follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They have been redeemed for humankind as the first fruits of God and the Lamb, and in their mouth no lie was found. They are blameless. Just a little context. 144,000 is 12 times 12,000. 12 is a really important Hebrew number for complete. It is seen as Israel, that's all the Jews, and the nations of the earth, that's all of the everybody else's. And when you multiply that by 1,000, it's like more than that. So we have probably been familiar with traditions that are like, that's only 144,000 people, and there's been 112 billion humans that have ever lived. That's not very many. But when you sit in Hebrew numerology, this is actually an expansive number that seemingly has no end. And so this expansive mass of humans is standing this, and it is loud, and they're singing things, and they are the first fruits. There's our first agriculture metaphor. Then I saw another angel flying in mid-heaven with an eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation and tribe. He said in a loud voice, "Fear God and give glory, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him who made heaven and earth and the sea and the springs of water." Then another angel, a second, followed, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has made all nations drink of wine of the wrath of her fornication." Then another angel, a third, followed them, crying with a loud voice, "Those who worship the beast and its image and receive a mark on their foreheads and on their hands, they will also drink the wine of God's wrath, poured unmixed into the cup of his anger, and they will be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. The smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever. No rest day or night for those who worship the beast and its image, for anyone who receives the mark of its name. Here is a call for the endurance of the saints, those who keep the commandments of God and hold fast to the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Write this, blessed are the dead, who from now on die in the Lord. Yes, says the Spirit. They will rest from their labors, for their deeds will follow them." Then I looked, and there was a white cloud, and seated on the cloud was one like the Son of Man, with a golden crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. Another angel came out of the temple, calling with a loud voice to the one who had sat on the cloud, "Use your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come," agriculture, "because the harvest of the earth is fully ripe." The cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped. Then another angel came out of the temple of heaven, and he too had a sharp sickle. Then another angel came out from the altar, angel who has authority over fire, and he called with a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, "Use your sharp sickle," agriculture, "to gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for its grapes are ripe." So the angel swung his sickle over the earth and gathered the vintage of the earth, and he threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and the blood flowed from the winepress, as high as a horse's bridle, for the distance of about 200 miles. Whoa. Revelation 14, right? What a wild one. John is borrowing a metaphor from Isaiah 63. In Isaiah 63, the assumed and hoped for Messiah comes and throws the enemies of God into a winepress, smashes them to bits until his robe is drenched in their blood. This is vengeance, this is power, this is justice, right, for the enemies of God. Who are the grapes in Revelation 14? They're not the enemies of God. They're the people of God. In Revelation, the humans that are crushed in the winepress are us. I know. But what does the passage say again and again? I love it, Kobe, is that it's actually to die. It is good to sacrifice for what God is doing. And it will do something new, because the people who follow the Lamb to the point of death end up living like the Lamb who followed God to the Revelation is sprinting along. 7 of this and 7 of that. Tell you about empire. 12 hits and it stops and goes, wait, let me get something really clear. The empire is not your enemy. The dragon is. And if you think you will defeat the empire with rage and power, and all you are doing is joining the dragon. But if you want to defeat the empire and the dragon, come and die. Revelation scholar Shane Wood says this: the cosmic secret, I think we have a quote. Hey, we have a new slide system today, so anything could happen. It's a miraculous that it's behaving as it is. I don't know what you're saying. What's wrong with it? That seems rude. Thanks, Nick. I really appreciate you. The cosmic secret of how to destroy the enemy of Eden has now been disclosed. To kill a dragon, you need much more than anger and a sword. You need a cross and cruciform living. Let's take a step back. Because when we understand that our enemy isn't the empire, that it's not flesh and blood or that political party or that nation state or whatever else, but that we are joined in this eternal cosmic battle against the dragon, and that the weapons that defeat the dragon don't look anything like the weapons of the empire, then I decided to lean forward and imagine. Because there's the second promise of Revelation 12. Your enemy is the dragon. And every single time the dragon tries to win, the dragon loses anyway. The battles are unremarkable. Like I don't know if anyone has watched Harry Potter when Dumbledore fights Voldemort. There's this epic Voldemort throws these massive, dangerous, explosive spells. Or just throw water. Because with rage, he's fighting with love, which the whole point of Harry Potter in theory is, amongst all the other things we don't talk about, is that love is a more powerful weapon than anything else in the universe, right? And that is what's happening here. The dragon throws a river at the woman, and the earth swallows it up. The dragon pursues her to the edge of the thing, and she grows wings and flies away. The people of join Jesus in the cloud something, and they are smashed into wine and fed to the people of the beast. And the consequence of being fed to the people of the beast is Revelation 14:6. Then I saw another heaven with the eternal gospel to proclaim for those who live on the earth, to every nation and tribe and language and people. That angel said in a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him who had made heaven and earth and the sea and the springs of water. When the followers of Jesus let ourselves become the wine brought into the wine, let ourselves to experience God's wrath, which should be in quotes, because everything we see is it is good to die. And when you follow Jesus, you sing the song that he sings. And this is the population. And then you are smashed to wine and fed to the enemy, and the enemy is destroyed by becoming your friends. The invitation of Revelation is to destroy your enemies by the cross of Jesus, not by winning them to your side. This is scary, costly, and beautiful. To live like the Lamb, to die like the Lamb, to rise like the Lamb, to heal the world in the process. This is Revelation 12 through 14. They step back and say, don't forget, you are not each other's enemies. That country is not your enemy. That system isn't even your enemy. Ooh, I feel like I got very loud there. Maybe that's power and authority. But you will never defeat your enemies with anger and a wrath, because that wrath is absorbed in your body. This was the universal application of Revelation for the 300 years that followed it. The church understood this so deeply, so completely, that they lived and loved and sacrificed themselves to the point that the empire changed forever. That the course of human history was redirected not through empire, not through power, not through vengeance and violence, but through Christians, the poor, and caring for the least of these, and protecting babies, and loving women, and supporting one another in divine, shalom-inspired community. And when we recognize that the way the Roman Empire and the course of human history was changed was not by Christianity taking the throne and leading with the sword, but was by Christianity remaining in the gutters of the poor, then everything starts to shift. Because early Christians, and I think hopefully us today, believe that this feels like an important time to remember this message. The invitation is not to take anger and weapons and swords and fight for authority again, but to lay down our lives in loving sacrifice and remake the world in the image of the Lamb. It is terrifying. It is costly. It is hyper-contextualized. The thing about a sword is anybody uses a sword to do the same thing to anybody they use it against, right? Whether you know how to swing it or not, you swing and you poke and you hurt and you harm. But love looks different in the hands of every person that engages in it. Some of you love with music or poetry or acting or art. Some of you love by teaching and coming alongside and listening to and serving. Some of you love by making sure our buildings don't fall down and our electricity doesn't cause fire. Some of you love by helping organizations have policies that get hurt. When we love, it looks different. Evil is incredibly uncreative. Love forces us on the opposite. To those who have ears, let them hear. Let's pray. Lord God, may we love as you first loved us. May we understand what it means to join your kingdom. May we understand what it means to stand up against evil. And may we never forget who our enemy is. May we, in radical and creative and unique ways, destroy our enemies by making them our friends. In your holy and mighty name, amen. Take seconds to reflect on what we've heard.